Howdy, everyone. Tad Stevens on the Micro Success Secrets podcast, where we focus on business psychology and marketing and how you can use that in your business daily and long term. Today, I'm talking with Mark Julian. Mark, welcome to the show and introduce yourself if you have a minute.
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me on the show. Really appreciate it. So my background is originally I was a CPA, or still am a CPA, and I bought and sold over 25 companies, made 60 products from an idea to actually selling in the market, done probably 2,000 joint ventures, and some of my products, cumulative, have sold, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products.
Excellent. So, okay, this is going to be a good one. I have a feeling. To start out with, I always like this question, is in business, if you could go back and you could change one business decision, first off, like if you could back in time, jump in a time machine, go back in time, and you could change one business decision. First off, would you change it? And if you would change it, what would you change it to?
Well, good question. So, one, it'd be nice to go back with the knowledge that you have now, to go back for 20 or 30 years ago, right? Kind of like a hack, kind of like going back to high school. How much more fun would you have knowing what you know now?
Right.
Unfortunately, you can't go back. So there's always different things that you'd like to go back on. I think mine is, one of them is, having a product that would be a really good product and then waiting too long to take it to the market. And because you're sitting on it for there's various reasons why you do. And so that would probably be, because I've seen other products that have come to the market that I possibly could have come out with that have been huge successes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Things like that. And I get, when people would change whatever it was. I had a guy a couple of weeks ago, said he'd go back and make better stock decisions. And I thought, no, that's a good answer. I think I'd do that one too. But kind of along that line, if you could go back in time and you could identify one business decision or life decision that was just super positive. I mean, you can look at it, kind of like everything that happened before it and everything that happened after it. Do you have one of those?
I would think I got hooked up with a group of guys. I was with the CPA firm for a while, and then I got hooked up with a group of them, and they were actually buying and selling companies. And I think from the buying and selling company standpoint, you learn a lot. You learn the customer base, you learn how. So we were actually putting them together, putting them out. And one of them that we bought from a large company that didn't really care about it. It was a small company, was doing probably about $5 million, but we got it for, it had almost $2 million worth of assets, and we paid like $400,000 for it, and it was a no money down deal as a payment over time. So I think there's a lot of education. I mean, with a lot of things, but from buying and selling the companies, you learn a lot. I mean, it got harder later on because we had about 148, employees, and when you get to that many, there's so many. Right. Johnny cooks Mary's lunch or whatever the case may be. It gets to be too much, and I think you lose that focus that takes it away. So I always like the more top side thing than being in the weeds. But that was a really good one from my side, because we were able to springboard a lot off that.
Okay. All right. Super. So kind of related to that, do you have one decision that was the scariest?
That worked or didn't work?
Either one. I mean, it's the idea is that everybody comes up against these. And so it's kind of like, well, if they see what you've done, if people have seen what you've done, they go, oh, well, I can do that. I can do mine then.
Right.
So is there anything that, and it could be the same one.
So being in the invention game, kind of like being, the local village idiot sometimes. you do the things, your family looks at you strange. I mean, sometimes I'll answer your question when I throw something on top of it. Sometimes when you get into it, like some weekends will go by and you dive in and you're working on it and you think, oh, this is a good idea, it's going to go. And then you wake up on Monday morning and you say, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I wasted a couple of days on that. So that happened. So I had an idea. I was up at an Invention show in Pennsylvania, and there was this Princeton professor there, and he had this little thing on hooked up with the battery, and it had a Peltier chip. I probably don't say that right, but where get hot and cold. And he would say, just come here, like it was a big secret, right? Had this thing over to the side, he'd undo it, and then he'd take a piece of water, he'd plug it into the battery, he'd take a drop of water, drop the water on there, and he'd freeze it. And it's like, and this is 10, 15 years ago, and I'm looking at it, it's like, wow, right? I mean, wow. And but anyway, you start thinking, man, I can make this, I can make lunch boxes out of it, I can make so many different things out of that product. And what happened was, you go back, and one of the first things is you always want to look to see if something's already on the market before you even do it. You get an idea. And if you don't go back and look to see whether it's done or not done, just because it's done doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that you need to be aware of it, why there's worked or didn't work, or there's a lot of factors that pretty much drive that from that side. So anyway, I went back, I did a little research on it and found out, look, it's in certain markets, that particular technology is common as dirt. So it's very, very common. It's
okay.
To be able to run off a battery and do different things like that. So I got this idea. I'm going to make this hot and cold pack. So, like the soccer moms or whatever, they can get this little unit, certain size. It has a disc on it. They can put it on and, cool it down or heat it up. If they have a little boo-boo or whatever you want to call it. And I thought, wow. So I show it to people. I go around, it's a rough prototype thing, and they're all excited, right? Oh yeah, we like it. And then will you buy it, or that kind of stuff like that. So what happened was that I made it. It took, probably about 6-7 months, something like that, to be able to get it. And then when I brought it over to sell, I found out that the selling, my cost is about $25 in the unit. And I found out what the selling price was, that the most I could actually get out of it would be, $50 for it. So here I am in at 25. I'm trying to sell it at 50 myself, and they're going to retail it. So my market is heavy on, I'm wholesaling, sell the, bigger catalogs, Hammacher, Schlemmer, Sharper Image, Groupon, some bigger ones like that. So I'm flipping it faster. But anyway, I go through this whole thing, and I'm trying to sell at $99, which is the MSRP. And then we're selling at, 50 to get it. It really didn't go anywhere. So, $140,000 later, you say, oh my gosh, I got all this inventory, and it's hard. So that's a really hard one to learn from. But what I did was I ended up taking that same technology, and I put it in a TENS unit with a hot and cold thing on it. And that one actually did pretty well. But that, you're talking over a 3 or 4 year period, but you're sitting on that loss for a while. You have some issues from that. So it doesn't always mean that, it's not going to work. It's a matter of hitting it right and trying to figure out how to do it. Because the hardest part in the inventing world is that inventing is really a business. If you're not in it to actually make it as a business and a one-hit wonder, it's like hitting lotto. It's a really, really hard business. And so what I've learned is that, say, take Sharper Image, for example. They're my customer. I cannot just take them one product. I can take them 10, 15 products at the same time, and they don't always necessarily have to be mine. So I can make money off other people's products by taking them into the Sharper Image. And in addition to it, I can have mine in it, and you have more, product breadth in it to be able to generate the cash and the money from that side.
Okay. So that kind of leads to another question I've got is, a lot of these decisions you're making, like the hot and cold thing, there's can be some pretty big financial or other type decisions that you come up against. Do you have a method that you use to get through those? Do you evaluate a certain way? Do you make a pros and cons list? Do you have anything that you do that you could share with others when you come to those decisions? How do you get through them? Well,
that's a really good question. So when I was doing it in the past, I would go more off of feel or what I liked, right?
Yeah, I get it. I'm still doing that, unfortunately, but yes.
But what I've learned is, because once you develop a little bit of a relationship with your real buyers, who they are, is that now I can go to them and say, hey, I got this idea. This is what I'm thinking about. Would you guys buy? Now, they're not necessarily going to give me a purchase order at that time, but if I make that product, as long as the quality is good and it's what we talked about before, they'll actually, give me a purchase order. So now whenever I do one, I always have a customer. So I'm not going to go out that I can usually get my money back from that side to be able to take it to market. So I think that's a hard lesson to learn, because you always you get so excited about what you have, and you think everybody else wants, especially in the inventing world, everybody else wants what you have.
Right.
But now I don't do anything if I don't have an order. I got stuff in my closet that I think, oh, wow, that's a good idea.
No, I laugh because I have a basement full of product. I give away at Christmas and stuff now.
Right.
So super. That is excellent. So to kind of wrap up here a little bit, I always like to ask this question last, because it is my belief that doing what people like you do, what I do, what the listeners do, is a lot of us don't have anybody to talk to. Like you mentioned earlier, people look at you like you're the village idiot. Well, you're not, but you want to talk.
I don't know. Some days maybe.
Some days it can be that way. Right. True.
Right.
But when you're doing all this, what gets you out of bed in the morning? What's your passion? Why do you do this?
It's not like a job. It's not a job. I haven't worked for years. I've shown up for years, but I haven't worked for years. And I think that's really the key, because it's kind of therapeutic, right? To make an invention or whatever the case may be, it's therapeutic from that side. So, okay, I can go, because that's the world you get comfortable in. And then from a creativity side, you look at it and say, okay, I can make this or make that. And so that's what it is. And it's also getting one that actually will sell. So it's kind of the challenge from that side. So it's just not the accolades that your friends and family and all that kind of stuff like that will actually buy it. It's actually when you're actually able to sell it, and then that the people that are buying it actually get the satisfaction or the use from whatever that product would be. So I do some medical products and different items like that is that market's just insane. And if you're going to be an inventor, that's where I go and go in the medical space, because you eliminate a lot of the competition, because the regulation and the standards are higher. So in the outside world, the hardest part is that you go on the Kickstarter, you go on this. If you don't have the protection, if you're waiting for the protection, sometimes you never get it, and then you don't take the product to market. And I had somebody come up at one time and say, "Oh, I got this great idea. And they can't tell you anything. You can sign an NDA, you can do whatever it is, but they don't want to tell anybody. So how are you ever going to take something like that to market? So it's things like that this, for me, it's kind of fun, because you're able to see it, because it doesn't really matter. And then if your product's going to get knocked off, the other side of it is that usually when your product gets knocked off, it's selling. You might get some other people that might knock it off on a smaller scale, but the biggest problem is having the it's not just the financial capabilities, being able to have a product, be able to make the product right, and being able to take something like that to the market in various ways. Did I answer your question?
I think so. And you mentioned one word that I was thinking about listening to you explain it. Fun. It just sounds like it's fun.
It is. It is. It's not fun every day.
No, it can't be fun every day, but overall, because that's basically mine. And when I hear other people talk about what they're doing, I think, they're having fun. They enjoy this. It is So, Mark, thanks a ton for sharing, for everything that you've brought to the show today. Time to wrap up. Is there anything that you'd like to leave with the listeners and viewers? Contact information, what you're doing, things like that.
So I'd like to add one piece in, because part of it is from the inventing side. What ends up happening is that everybody thinks I've got to have money. I've got to have something up. This, you put all your cash in, and you take so much. You don't take so much risk from that side. But the most important thing in any business really is the distribution, or what the customers are. because if I have distribution, I can give those customers more product or different ways to be able to sell to them and not having it. So if you're going to bring a product up from an invention side, you're going to say, well, okay, who am I going to sell it to? And obviously the Kickstarters and all that, but most of those, the product never gets delivered. And they have this misnomer that, oh, I got to have all this money or I got to have that. No, what you really need to have is you need to have less risk, because that's what, well, it's hard. I mean, when you don't have the money and you're so caught up in it and you believe it's going to go, you're willing to risk anything. So it's like sometimes, walking in, I'm not betting on, I'm not betting on red or black. I'm betting on black 13, right? Or red 13, whatever it is, right? So you take too much risk. And I think part of that is if you look about, say, hey, where's my customers? Who has my customers? And then possibly going to them to where you can do a joint venture, you do something a little bit different, then what's the norm? Because say if you're selling a health product and you got a group that say this guy's got 200,000 health people, you can take your product and say, even before it's done, say, look, this is what I'm thinking of. Here's how it is. We tap it in. We can do profit things. So you can find partners through joint ventures as well and take risks. So I've learned the hard way to take as little risk as you can on the front side, but it's hard from the inventing side to when they pop up. They want to just jump in and go. Because I've seen it, I mean, it's just insane. It's just insane. But anyway, if they wanted to contact me right now on website of thebusinessballer.com.
Okay. And I will make sure that is in the show notes in the description for wherever we post the audio and video. Again, Mark, thank you very much for sharing. I said this was going to be a good one, or I felt it was going to be a good one at the beginning. I was right. So appreciate that. Appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for listening in. Anybody has any questions, just look for the URL below this audio or video, wherever you happen to find that. Have a safe and productive week and be the very, very best at whatever it is that you're doing. Until next time, this is Tad Stevens with Micro Success Secrets. Bye for now.